Hi, welcome. Shout out to Rem Animatics for suggesting this video. They've got a super cool channel. They've done some stuff based off my content, which is amazing. And it's my first suggestion video. If you have any suggestions and you're too introverted to put it in the comments below, then don't worry, you can send me an email and hopefully I can get around to making a suggestion video based off your suggestion. So, in this video, I'm going to be talking about superpowers of an INFJ, and actually a lot of these are blessings and curses. That's a common theme with INFJs in general. A lot of the things, it's like, wow, this is amazing, but also this is a huge drawback for them to have to deal with. Um, with this, I think a lot of the time, if you can learn to master these powers and unlock them, then you're going to be able to turn those weaknesses into strengths. So pretty much this video is just explaining the positives and negatives of these INFJ powers and how to use them. So the first one is INFJs are so good at making instant and deep connections with people. These are the people at parties who are just in the corner. They've picked off one person and they're having such a deep conversation with these people. It's not small talk at all. They're going into meaning, life philosophy, whatever. It's it's just such an amazing power INFJs have to just really capture the essence of connection with people so quickly and just dive into the really deep stuff. The issue is, though, sometimes INFJs can get attached a bit too quickly, and with introverted intuition, what they can actually do is they can look into the future and understand what people like the interaction connection with the person before they've even really talked to them much. And this can lead to INFJs planning entire futures without ever interacting with people and kind of lead to sort of relationships that are only in the INFJ's mind. And to deal with this, it's just important to make sure an INFJ is checking in with the real world and actually having conversations with people, and not letting themselves spiral into that introverted intuition, seeing ahead too much, just using that as a sort of initial base point to say, oh, that looks like they're going to be a cool person to have a conversation with, let's have a conversation with them, and not just sort of spending too much time in the NI planning stage. The next superpower is how good an INFJ is at detecting motive. So, similar to how they can form connections with people really quickly, what they're really good at is taking a look at a person and seeing if there's something wrong with them, something that just seems a bit off, or maybe something like, wow, they seem so cool. And just getting almost going off vibes. It is the combination of the introverted intuition and extroverted feeling that means they can just sort of detect that really well. The issue comes though when sometimes not everyone actually has a motive explicitly. So obviously INFJs are constantly planning, constantly have motives and goals, but some people, for example, extroverted sensing DOMs, so ESFPs and ESTPs, often don't. So these are the types that often prefer to live in the moment and aren't necessarily constantly in the head planning. And I think it's a matter of perspective that's important for this. So if an INFJ actually appreciates not everyone will be having a motive in the same way as them, then I think that's how they can best deal with the superpower being applied to everyone and not kind of misattributing motives when there aren't explicitly ones. And the way to do this is just the change of perspective, and not every motive is NI. So um, if they look at someone and think, actually, maybe their motive is living in the moment and not having quote unquote motives. So I think that's how an INFJ can really use this superpower to extend to all types rather than just limiting it to introverted intuition people. Um, so yeah, the motive is the living in the moment, for example, for an SE Dom, potentially. Um, the next superpower is just how good they are at showing appreciation for people. I don't think I've met any other type that's just as good as INFJs at saying positive things about people that are so meaningful and to the point. Because I know a lot of the types don't have this ability to just go up to someone and say something positive, but with an INFJ, you can run an experiment now if you want. Ask an INFJ to say something positive about you, as long as you sort of they don't hate you, then they're just going to be able to say so many things that are really good about you, and make you feel bad about yourself. But this is the crucial part. If you ask them for any criticism about you, they're going to really struggle to say anything most of the time. You can you can like try and get it out of them, but it's just a really difficult thing to do. And I think the sort of that this is what holds people back from getting really useful criticism from INFJs a lot of the time. They just have the extra feeling. They feel like they don't want to hurt people's feelings about it, and this can really hold INFJs back, because actually what they have is also really good criticism about people. They have, especially themselves as well, with the introverted thinking, they have such deep and analytical perspectives on people, but they just don't want to share them, and it's quite sad that they just don't feel able to share them even when they're being asked for. And I think the way to deal with this for an INFJ as an INFJ is to try and use their ability at giving appreciation and saying positive things, but also blend in the criticism. For example, if you're trying to tell something that needs improvement, you can say, "I really appreciate how willing you are to work on this part of yourself," and that's something you can make it so make sure they're feeling positive about it still, because an INFJ really doesn't want people to feel negative about themselves. So the fourth power of an INFJ is giving advice. Okay, INFJs, you are amazing at giving advice. I'll just say it now. So they just know about pretty much anything you can ask them, an INFJ, and they'll be able to give you advice on it. Note this is with extroverted feeling as opposed to extroverted thinking. So you don't want to be going to these types to try and solve your problems. You want to be going to these types to help you work through any problems and anything you're going through. So this can be really useful for like relationship things. If you're having a tough time, an INFJ will be able to give you advice to help you and support you through that. This is because they have introverted intuition, so as a dominant function. So even if they aren't explicitly familiar with the situation, so maybe you're going through a breakup, they've never gone through one before, they can draw from their past experiences and look at the patterns and figure out, okay, how is a person going through this? And they can really understand you, even if they haven't experienced the same thing you're experiencing. And they have the extroverted feeling, so obviously they're really good at just this sort of empathy side of things, and they can give some really useful advice. I mean, they have introverted intuition, remember. They really have deep connections and thoughts in their head. So this can actually give some really meaningful stuff coming from them. And they're just amazing at it. The fifth, sort of, it's not really a superpower of an INFJ, but by being an INFJ, these types are so rare. And this can, in and of itself, can be a really useful thing for an INFJ to use, because a lot of the types won't be familiar with them and interacting with INFJs as much, because this allows you to be unpredictable, because this means they're not going to be able to sort of understand how to combat the ways that you're thinking, and you can really use that to get ahead in life, because you can really exploit the fact that they don't know how to interact with your functions. So this actually means your functions are really valuable in the sense that not a lot of people can fulfill the role of an INFJ, which is super helpful. The unfortunate part about this is it can lead to them feeling quite isolated in sort of an existential way, because there's not a lot of people that they can relate to. And I do think MBTI communities can really help out with this, with connecting INFJs together. But as INFJs, you can really you are such a rare type, and that is just a fact of being an INFJ, and it will have its pros and cons. But if you are just seeing the cons all the time, then it can stop you from seeing the positives.